In 1960, the U.S. Census Bureau reported that Detroit was the richest per capita city in the United States. Since then, Detroit has seen nothing but declining standards in population, crime, and education. The population has decreased from its highest of 1.8 million in 1960 to only 700,000, leaving the city with roughly 80,000 abandoned buildings, according to the Washington Post. Detroit is also faced with high rates of violent crimes and arson, and due to a short-staffed police force, it often takes over an hour for them to respond to a call. More than half of the adults in Detroit are illiterate, and according to NPR, less than 25% of all high school students in the city go on to graduate. As of July 18th, Detroit was forced to file for Chapter 9 bankruptcy with $18 billion of debt. In order for the city and its people to be saved from these constant hardships, it is crucial that we establish a plan to pay off the deficit. So what can be done? Some have suggested that the federal government provide a bailout for Detroit, like the one President Obama gave the U.S. banks when they failed a few years ago. However, this led to millions of dollars falling into the hands of CEOs as bonuses instead of being put towards the actual stabilization of the banks. If Detroit were to be bailed out, there is high potential for the money to fall into the wrong hands, as it did in the case of the bank bailouts. The answer begins with selling. Auctioning off some of Detroit's prized possessions and artifacts is a promising way to bring down the immense amount of debt the city has accumulated. Harrisburg, another city that has been hurting financially for years, recently had an auction of their own. In order to raise money to help the capital get back on its feet and pay down some of their $300 million in debt, Harrisburg auctioned some 3,000 historic items they had been planning to put into a new museum. Through the sale of prize items like Theodore Roosevelt's own rifles and George Washington's handwritten letters, the city was able to generate $3.1 million, according to Penn Live. If Harrisburg can collect multi-millions from selling their memorabilia, there is no reason to doubt that Detroit couldn't do the same. Emergency Manager Kevin Orr's proposals to slash pensions and union contracts, as well as lay off more of the city's workers, will have a negative impact overall. It will damage the citizens' hope of ever returning to a normal lifestyle and destroy their faith. If the judge authorizes the city to move forward with a Chapter 9 bankruptcy case, Orr would propose a plan of reorganization. This could take weeks, months, or years.
Even if we took every dime we made every year, we didn't pay another police officer, another city worker, we didn't fill a pothole, we didn't send ambulances on calls, took every dime we had, no 4th of July. It would take 17 years to pay off that debt. Even if we had $200 or $250 million of free cash out of a $1 billion budget, 25%, it would take 68 years to pay off that debt.
However, there is another solution along with selling. Bringing businesses into Detroit will also be a key addition to selling some of their assets. Selling their assets will give them a jump start, but bringing big businesses to the city will be extremely important. Companies like Shinola, a watch-selling company, have brought business back to Detroit. Tom Kartsotis, an entrepreneur, believes that since Detroit was once the biggest manufacturing city in the U.S., that it can get back to this state once again. Therefore, he decided to start up his business in this city, which will help Detroit financially. Not to mention the fact that if companies see Shinola succeeding in Detroit, they might come over as well. They are a new and uprising company that can generate a lot of business for the city, similar to how Zappos brought millions of dollars to Las Vegas. Detroit was once a powerhouse city of the United States. The fall of Detroit was tragic, unfortunate, and affected the whole country. Since then, the debts have done nothing but compound and hold the city back. Selling is what will ultimately bring Detroit out of bankruptcy. It shows the best promise and gives people a new hope. The money that Detroit earns from selling off lands and assets can then be used to stimulate the economy by bringing in new businesses and new residents, as well as improve the overall quality of life in Detroit.